The age of accountability. So when exactly does an old child become a young adult? How often have we heard the duplicitous absolutists describe the very same older teens as both children and adults, purely depending on the strategic intent of their particular narrative at the time. If the teens are purported to be neglected or in need of mercy, they are innocent children, even babies. But if underprivileged, they are young adults, or even too grown up to insult with the young epithet. They're barely out of diapers, too old to spank, too young to punish as adults, old enough to drive, consume alcohol, smoke, get jobs, pay taxes, serve in the military, get married, and live at their parents' expense, all at the same time. The determining criteria simply morphs to the tune of whomever is seeking to gain something from the opportunistic designation. Clearly, we need some guidance from well beyond our personally suited purpose if a consensus is ever to be achieved in our social conforms. So, what does our Creator have to say on the subject? Anything at all? Well, as it turns out, he actually says quite a bit. So much so, it seems astonishing that we've somehow managed to ignore the clear turning points in age when God himself assigns accountability, as well as authority in various capacities. Exodus 30:11 through 16. And the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, When thou takest the sum of the children of Israel after their number, then shall they give every man a ransom for his soul unto the Lord when thou numberest them, that there be no plague among them when thou numberest them. This they shall give, every one that passeth among them that are numbered, half a shekel after the shekel of the sanctuary. A shekel is 20 gerahs. And half shekel shall be the offering of the Lord. Every one that passeth among them that are numbered, from 20 years old and above, shall give an offering unto the Lord. The rich shall not give more, and the poor shall not give less than half a shekel, when they give an offering unto the Lord, to make an atonement for your souls. And thou shalt take the atonement money of the children of Israel, and shalt appoint it for the service of the tabernacle of the congregation, that it may be a memorial unto the children of Israel before the Lord, to make an atonement for your souls. When God was initially establishing the precepts for Moses to implement concerning the tabernacle, its logistics and necessary monetary support, he told Moses to collect an offering of 10 gerahs, half a shekel, also called a bekah, from everyone 20 years old and above. It was to be for an atonement for their souls. Those under 20 did not need to make that atonement. Clearly, 20 is the age for individual accountability from God's point of view. Exodus 38:25 and 26. The silver of them that were numbered of the congregation was 100 talents, and 1,763 shekels, after the shekel of the sanctuary. A bekah for every man, that is, half a shekel, after the shekel of the sanctuary, for every one that went to be numbered, from 20 years old and upward, for 600,000 and 3,550 men. There is much we can deduce from God's perspective concerning the age of 20, and he also provides us with additional age designations that we should be aware of and honoring accordingly. Leviticus 27:1 through 7. And the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, Speak unto the children of Israel, and say unto them, When a man shall make a singular vow, the persons shall be for the Lord by thy estimation, and thy estimation shall be of the male from 20 years old even unto 60 years old. Even thy estimation shall be 50 shekels of silver, after the shekel of the sanctuary. And if it be a female, then thy estimation shall be 30 shekels. And if it be from 5 years old even unto 20 years old, then thy estimation shall be of the male 20 shekels, and for the female 10 shekels. And if it be from a month old even unto 5 years old, then thy estimation shall be of the male 5 shekels of silver, and for the female thy estimation shall be 3 shekels of silver. And if it be from 60 years old and above, if it be a male, then thy estimation shall be 15 shekels, and for the female 10 shekels. In this valuation, God actually establishes 5 age categories of newborns, 1 month to 5 years old, 5 to 20 years old, 20 to 60, and finally 60 years old and up. Obviously, these are age groups that share a lot of commonality within their groupings that are easily observable, even to this day, regardless of our various cultures. Sure, cultural norms do have their influence, but there is an undeniable reality that perfectly aligns with the age groups God has defined, whether it be physical attributes and capabilities or mental, which are, of course, intertwined in the process of aging, both physically and experientially. By paying attention to the common attributes within the groups, we can easily determine which groups should sensibly be given which privileges and responsibilities. But God actually saves us from having to make that decision in many cases. For example, He confirms the adult accountability that comes at age 20 in defining who should fight in war. He even says who is able to go forth to war. Numbers 1:1 through 3. And the Lord spake unto Moses in the wilderness of Sinai, in the tabernacle of the congregation, on the first day of the 2nd month, in the 2nd year, after they were come out of the land of Egypt, saying, Take ye the sum of all the congregation of the children of Israel after their families, and by the house of their fathers, with the number of their names, every male by their polls, from 20 years old and upward, all that are able to go forth to war in Israel. Thou and Aaron shall number them by their armies. Contrary to our cultural norm, it is clear that God tells us that those under the age of 20 are too young to be going to war. Considering the psychological realities, that certainly makes sense. While an 18-year-old may be as physically able as a 20-year-old, they are definitely not as mature mentally. No doubt we'd have a lot less PTSD were our youngest soldiers 20 years old and up, and thus better able to deal with the horrors of war in their minds. Numbers 1:18 through 19 and 45 and 46. And they assembled all the congregation together on the first day of the 2nd month, and they declared their pedigrees after their families by the house of their fathers, according to the number of the names, from 20 years old and upward by their polls. As the Lord commanded Moses, so he numbered them in the wilderness of Sinai. So were all those that were numbered of the children of Israel by the house of their fathers, from 20 years old and upward, all that were able to go forth to war in Israel. Even all they that were numbered were 600,003,550. God makes it clear that it is those 20 and up that are truly able to go forth to war. No doubt the psychological issue is likely the deciding factor in the wisdom of his guidance, which clearly makes sense. Of course, as we've seen, God too establishes 20 as the age of accountability. So it also makes sense that would be the age where being responsible to defend your family and tribe, even to the death, would be expected. Speaking of which, look who God held accountable for not being willing to trust that God would make them victorious, even in their perceived potential of war, when faced with taking the promised land from those currently living there. Numbers 14:22 and 23 and 27 through 33. Because all those men which have seen my glory and my miracles, which I did in Egypt and in the wilderness, and have tempted me now these 10 times, and have not hearkened to my voice, surely they shall not see the land which I swear unto their fathers, neither shall any of them that provoke me see it. How long shall I bear with this evil congregation, which murmur against me? I have heard the murmurings of the children of Israel, which they murmur against me. Say unto them, As truly as I live, saith the Lord, as ye have spoken in mine ears, so will I do to you. Your carcasses shall fall in this wilderness, and all that were numbered of you, according to your whole number, from 20 years old and upward, which have murmured against me. Doubtless ye shall not come into the land concerning which I swear to make you dwell therein, save Caleb the son of Jephunneh, and Joshua the son of Nun. But your little ones, which ye said should be a prey, them I will bring in, and they shall know the land which ye have despised. But as for you, your carcasses, they shall fall in this wilderness, and your children shall wander in the wilderness 40 years, and bear your whoredoms, until your carcasses be wasted in the wilderness. Even in spite of all God had already done for Israel in the preceding days, without them having to lift a finger in battle, or in much else for that matter, they still didn't trust that he would deliver that which he'd promised to them. Subsequently, God held all 20 and older accountable for their unbelief, with only 2 young men, Joshua and Caleb, having believed, and thus getting to enjoy the fulfillment of the promise along with Israel's little ones. Numbers 32, 10 through 12. And the Lord's anger was kindled the same time, and he sware, saying, Surely none of the men that came up out of Egypt from 20 years old and upward shall see the land which I swear unto Abraham, unto Isaac, and unto Jacob, because they have not wholly followed me, save Caleb the son of Jephunneh, and the Kenizzite, and Joshua the son of Nun, for they have wholly followed the Lord. We should also note that in the case of the tribe of Levi, their responsibility of service, rather than going to war as needed, was to serve in the tabernacle, and again, this was from the age of 20 and up. 1 Chronicles 23, 27, 28. For by the last words of David, the Levites were numbered from 20 years old and above, because their office was to wait on the sons of Aaron for the service of the house of the Lord, in the courts and in the chambers, and in purifying of all holy things, and the work of the service of the house of God. Ezra 3:8. Now, in the 2nd year of their coming unto the house of God at Jerusalem, in the 2nd month, began Zerubbabel, the son of Shealtiel, and Jeshua, the son of Zodadak, and the remnant of their brethren, the priests and the Levites, and all that they were to come out of the captivity unto Jerusalem, and appointed the Levites from 20 years old and upward to set forward the work of the house of the Lord. God even establishes the age where the youngest serving Levites would graduate from waiting on the older Levites and performing the most physically demanding tasks to that of the tabernacle and congregation, also setting the age they were to retire from physical service to ministering by being in charge of directing the operations. Numbers 8:23 through 26. And the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, This is it that belongeth unto the Levites. From 25 years old and upward they shall go in to wait upon the service of the tabernacle and of the congregation. And from the age of 50 years they shall cease waiting upon the service thereof, and shall serve no more, but shall minister with their brethren in the tabernacle of the congregation, to keep the charge, and shall do no service. Thus shalt thou do unto the Levites touching their charge. For those of us who've been 20, 25, and 50, it's easy to see God's wisdom in assigning the particular types of responsibilities the Levites would take on at each of those ages, moving from basic training and more physical, menial service to then more advanced ministerial duties, to finally overseeing. It definitely makes sense, as there is a level of experience and mental maturity at each of those ages that does seem ideally qualified to take on and then continue advancing in those higher responsibilities, though never arriving at the be-all, end-all, of course. Given the proper progression, knowledge, understanding, and wisdom should continue to grow throughout our lives, even long past the age of 50. Though we know that may not always be the case with those who resist God's guidance. There is also another age that God indicates as a valid point of maturity, where it becomes appropriate to take on a spiritual leadership role. The first time it is mentioned is when Joseph began to rule as Pharaoh's second over all of Egypt. Genesis 41:38 through 46. And Pharaoh said unto his servants, Can we find such a one as this is, a man in whom the Spirit of God is? And Pharaoh said unto Joseph, Forasmuch as God hath showed thee all this, there is none so discreet and wise as thou art. Thou shalt be over my house, and according unto thy word shall all my people be ruled. Only in the throne will I be greater than thou. And Pharaoh said unto Joseph, See, I have set thee over all the land of Egypt. And Pharaoh took off his ring from his hand, and put it upon Joseph's hand, and arrayed him in vestures of fine linen, and put a gold chain about his neck. And he made him ride in the second chariot which he had. And they cried before him, Bow the knee. And he made him ruler over all the land of Egypt. And Pharaoh said unto Joseph, I am Pharaoh, and without thee shall no man lift up his hand or foot in all the land of Egypt. And Pharaoh called Joseph's name Zaphnath-Paaneah, and he gave him a wife, Asenath, the daughter of Potipherah, priest of On. And Joseph went out over all the land of Egypt. And Joseph was 30 years old when he stood before Pharaoh, king of Egypt. And Joseph went out from the presence of Pharaoh, and he went throughout all the land of Egypt. God also designated special family groups within the Levites, ages 30 to 50, to be the ones that perform more ministerial duties in the tabernacle. Numbers 4:46 through 48. All those that were numbered of the Levites, whom Moses and Aaron and the chief of Israel numbered after their families and after the house of their fathers, from 30 years old and upward, even unto 50 years old, every one that came to do service of the ministry and the service of the burden in the tabernacle of the congregation, even those that were numbered of them, were 8,580. King David also numbered the Levites in similar manner for specific duties, from age 30 and up, from within all those 20 and up. 1 Chronicles 23:3-6, 24, and 27. Now the Levites were numbered from the age of 30 years up and upward, and their number by their polls, man by man, was 30 and 8,000, of which 20 and 4,000 were to set forward the work of the house of the Lord, and 6,000 were officers and judges. Moreover, 4,000 were porters, and 4,000 praised the Lord with the instruments which I made, saith David, to praise therewith. And David divided them into courses among the sons of Levi, namely Gershon, Kohan, and Merari. These were the sons of Levi after the house of their fathers, even the chief of the fathers, as they were counted by number of names by their polls, that did the work for the service of the house of the Lord, from the age of 20 years up and upward. For by the last words of David, the Levites were numbered from 20 years old and above. Given the significance of the age of 30 being the minimum for those Levites serving in the more ministerial capacities, It should be no surprise that Jesus' ministry also began at age 30. Luke 3:21-23. Now, when all the people were baptized, it came to pass that Jesus also, being baptized and praying, the heaven was opened, and the Holy Ghost descended in a bodily shape like a dove upon him. And a voice came from heaven which said, Thou art my beloved Son, and thee I am well pleased. And Jesus himself began to be about 30 years of age, being, as it was supposed, the son of Joseph, which was the son of Heli. When we consider the different ages that God sees fit to establish accountability and delegate leadership responsibilities to, etc., we should take heed and follow his lead in making those same designations in this day and time. God certainly knows best. He knows when we truly are both physically and mentally fit to be responsible and serve in specific capacities, both for ourselves and also for others. For those of us who've lived through the age categories God defines, his wisdom is especially self-apparent. So then, as we follow God's guidance, he establishes the following age groups for us. Children, newborns up to 1 month old. Children, 1 month up to 5 years. Youth, 5 up to 20 years. Men, young men, 20 up to 25 years. Young adults, my term, 25 up to 30 years. Adults, my term, 30 up to 50 years. Elders, 50 up to 60 years. Old men, older elders, 60 years old and up. Note I've aligned the non-biblical term adults of our contemporary vernacular with the ages of those God assigned early and more advanced, less physical levels of ministerial duties. The young men were the physical workhorses and infantrymen, while those 25 and up advanced with age and experience to increasing levels of leadership capacities.